What if everything you see around me was abandoned by humanity and every Pokemon had to live on their own in a post-apocalyptic world after several natural disasters have ravaged the world? And what if your protagonist was a Ditto? Congratulations, that is the plot of Pokopia. So let's talk about that, because I love this game. Hello and welcome. My name is Wolfy. You're watching Lesser Than Cake, the channel where I talk about video games inside of video games. And I don't know what made me decide to visit the Galar region, but it's nice seeing some buildings for once, because I have been spending hours in Pokopia. It's been out for a week and I've already got more than 40 hours into the game. That is just right off the cuff. That is how good this game is. It is that addicting. So the plot of the game is that the world's destroyed for mysterious reasons. We don't know why it's destroyed. We don't know what's going on, but we are a Ditto. And we are a Ditto who's kind of like, you know, the girl failure of all Dittos. Like, failing upward is what we do because we're not good at transforming into Pokemon. No, we're good at transforming into our trainer. Granted, it's been so long since we've seen our trainer that we kind of look like a weird, distorted version of it. But hey, you know, it's kind of cute. So we're a Ditto who acts like a person, but because we're acting like a person, we have a unique disposition to maybe actually help the problem. So we meet Professor Tangela, who also is a Pokemon, who maybe or maybe not traveled with Professor Oak at some point. We're not entirely sure what happened there. And so with their help, we set out in this barren world to rescue the Pokemon that are just showing up and build habitats for them. Pretty much the whole plot of it. Now, there is a story here that is being told through text and data logs and magazines. That's actually really cool, but I'm not going to spoil it for you guys because, well, it's surprisingly dark. It is surprisingly detailed, and in many ways is one of my favorite things about the game. So just be aware that going into this game, while it may look happy-go-lucky, it's not entirely that. Now, the gameplay loop for this game, though, is actually a lot of fun. It is a combination of Minecraft, Animal Crossing, Pokemon, and, well, actually, it's really just Dragon Quest Builders and Pokemon. But the Pokemon side of this is actually what makes it better. I did play the original Dragon Quest Builders. I did not play 2 because I had my fill of it with the first one, and I'm only a mild Dragon Quest fan. I definitely don't consider myself a big enough fan that I would have to buy every game in the series. In fact, I don't even think that I've played that many of the mainline games. I think I played Dragon Quest 3 and that's it. So digressing, Pokemon Pokopia is Dragon Quest Builders plus Pokemon. And plus a little bit of Animal Crossing because there's a lot of interactivity and stuff that you can do. And so the gameplay loop is you build a habitat, Pokemon shows up in said habitat, you become friends, Pokemon make some requests, you answer those requests, and then you're best friends and they're calling you by your name instead of calling you by Ditto. That is a thing that happens. Each Pokemon has its own unique dialogue and habits and traits. Some of them call you bro, some of them say yo, some of them call you pal. I mean, it all depends on the Pokemon that you're interacting with. And what's funny is they actually did it so that it made a lot of sense. So like having a Charmander be like, oh my God, you're my best friend, I love you. And then having a Tinkaton say, homie, yo. Actually, I think that's one of the bro ones, or pal. Might be pal. I think they say pal. But the point is, like, they have sort of these attitudes that make perfect sense for the Pokemon themselves. Gardevoir, when I met up with her, was very nurturing in how she talked, which again makes total sense. And there are some personalities that have been memed already because they're hilarious. Like, without spoiling too much, there are some legendary Pokemon that have rather interesting choices made for them. So you come into this world, you start making habitats, you start fixing problems. Eventually, you're going to find a ruined Pokemon Center that needs to be rebuilt, but it can only be rebuilt after raising the environmental level for the Pokemon in that world to a certain degree. And then there's also an alternate quest that is always like, do a thing to a certain percentage, like fulfill so many requests in order to make this happen. That will then trigger an encounter with a legendary, and that legendary will usually fix a major problem with the world for you, which is nice of them, but those interactions can be interesting. It will also usually increase your rank, which will then give you access to new areas. The game is not relegated to one big playable area. It is, I believe, 5 total. Yeah, 5 total major playable areas. I won't spoil anything past the first one in the B-roll for you guys, but they're all unique. They're all fun. They have their own quirks to them. And their own problems and their own legendaries, everything. It's all like whatever you did in the first one, which is like the first 12 to 15 hours of the game, you gotta keep doing it. Well, actually, it was much less than that because I was at like 25, 28 hours, I think, roughly at the end of the first weekend. And I had already experienced a lot. So yeah, you're going to go through it pretty quickly, but that is actually a recommendation of mine. You want to go through it really quickly. You want to get all of your areas unlocked because they will give you more abilities and more things to make your Pokemon more happy. And that is sort of the end goal here. Your goal is to figure out what's going on to a degree, build a Pokemon Center, raise your rank up so that you can keep exploring, get new technology to make the Pokemon more comfortable, and in turn doing so, get more rewards for more building. And unlike Animal Crossing, it's not necessarily all time-based. There is some time-based stuff like construction has to happen over time, refining resources has to happen over time, but overall, the game kind of takes place at your own pace, and that's actually really nice. Crafting is instantaneous for you. There's multi-crafting, which is nice. You can build your own buildings or you can use prefabs, which is really, really cool. The game itself has lots of ways to interact with it. And there's going to be a mix of pre-built and custom built things in your world just for the sake of time and raising environmental levels, etc. And things that people are already doing are insane. There's just so many interesting mechanics, everything from power generation and electricity to logic puzzles to building interesting terrarium style terrains for your various Pokemon to live in, or mixing in habitats and housing. There's so many cool things that you can do. And there are so many reasons to do it. Mixing in the shade of a tree and some tall grass is a different habitat than the tall grass itself. Making a field of flowers is a different habitat than, say, making a larger field of flowers. It will attract different Pokemon, and those different Pokemon will have different rarities. So the higher the rarity, the harder it is for them to show up. But when they do, they are in your town forever. And because there's so much to build with, so many areas, if you get stuck in one area, you just go to another and you continue the cycle. Once you're like actually in the main gameplay loop, you may be working on something in this area, gotta take it till tomorrow. So then you're just gonna go over here, you're gonna set something else that's gonna take till tomorrow. And then you go over here and you're gonna set something else that takes up tomorrow. And it's just this really, really fun and addicting, I can do this now, set this up, log in tomorrow, and then have everything done. And that, to me, is actually a lot of fun because there's always a change in scenery, there's always a change in things. And what's cool is your different areas can affect each other. So like if you're refining something over here that you need for over there, it works. And you can also take Pokemon from one area to the other and even relocate them when you want to, which is really fun, interesting, and a little bit weird. So yeah, if you need a construction guy from one area to go to that area to build a house in that area, you can do it. It's so weird. So often when I was playing this game, I was like, I wonder if this works. If I do this and this and this, does this work? And it just did. It's oddly intuitive for how complicated it gets. In fact, there have been multiple times where I was like, Minecraft could never. And yeah, in some ways, it's deeper than Minecraft. And in others, it's simpler than Minecraft. It's weird. You don't need a wiki to figure out how to do things because the game teaches you everything in a natural way. A Pokemon will have a request. To fill that request, you have to learn this thing. You do that thing, that Pokemon's happy, and now you know how to make elevators. That really did happen, by the way. So, and then usually they'll give you hints on additional habitats and things of that nature. So it's actually really a lot of fun to sometimes figure things out yourself. The third area that I went to, which was actually the second area for most people, I actually solved a lot of their problems before their problems were problems. And then they would just be like, oh, Ditto, you're amazing. And I'm like, yes, I am, because I am a Ditto. But the point is, you would go through these areas and you fix these problems. And as you fix these problems, the world gets better. And it's just a nice loop. By the time you've got level 5 in all areas and you've met all the legendaries, you've rebuilt all the Pokemon centers, you hilariously are only like halfway done with what you can do, but you will see the credits at that point. Or you can see the credits if you do one last thing. But at that point, like some people might put the game down. For me, I'm like, cool, I'm only halfway done because we can get to level 10 on all of these islands. And that's not even touching the 5th island. That's right. The 5th one is more of a, it's a world for your creation, if you will. But you still have the restriction of your survival mode inventory. So yeah, it's cool. I won't spoil what that island is called or what that town is called. They're not really islands, but I mean, that one is, but yeah, I won't spoil it. Lots of cool stuff in the story. And more importantly, lots of cool stuff to experience. Now I have to say the choice of a Ditto in this game does actually lead to probably one of the most interesting aspects, which is the transformation side of things. As I said, your Ditto's kind of a failure because they suck at transforming into Pokemon. But some of the Pokemon you rescue can teach you some moves that will make your life a little bit easier. Like Squirtle will teach you Water Gun and Bulbasaur will teach you how to make grass. Those are in the trailer, so I'm not spoiling much. But as you go on, there are moves to edit the terrain, make new habitats that all show up, and then eventually you get moves to make your life about getting around a little bit easier, including one that I feel is underutilized, but I won't really spoil too much about which one that is. And there's even one after the post-credit scenes that is OP, so it is totally worth getting. Point is, there are all these cool transformations and abilities that make your life easier, and as you go throughout the game, they become tools for you, if you will, to actually make the world into what you want, to get the resources you want. And it's just like a nice, cool cycle. There are some tips and tricks that aren't necessarily taught to you immediately. Like, so for example, can cut down trees, but it can also cut all vegetables off of a vine. And so it's actually better for harvesting your vegetables than, well, picking them one by one, which takes way more time. So there are like little things like that. You can power up each individual ability, except for the major transformations. Those you have to do. Well, you don't have to do. They don't have power-ups. Yeah. So like Water Gun can be powered up. Your ability to make grass can be powered up. Cut can be powered up. Rock Smash is another one that can be powered up. So essentially like all those moves, they're referenced to original Pokemon games. They're nice, they're fun, and they're really cool. And each of them helps you make a new habitat or explore new areas and actually get around. And I have to say, exploration in this game was a surprise to me because I didn't expect it to be as cool as it was. There were multiple times where I would be like, oh, I'm just gonna go in this direction and see what happens. I'd be like, there's a whole town here. Why is there a town here? How did it get here? I don't know, but it just was a lot of fun. I had it happen. Oh, I wish I could spoil it for you guys, but I'm not going to. There was an area in the first area of the game where I climbed up onto a cliff and then I looked down and I was like, oh, there's a whole thing right there. And I can interact with that thing. In the second area, which for me was the third area for most people, there's a certain large structure that when you find it, you're just like, oh my goodness. I know exactly where I am. So there are some really cool things that can really be found just by exploring around. And every area that you explore is a lot bigger than you initially think. When you first go into it, you're thinking that they are these sort of small isolated areas, and they do that on purpose. They make it so that like your main area that you're working within is kind of tight knit and you can build it up. But as you explore the world, you find, oh, there's this whole other thing over here that I need to go help because unfortunately that thing over there is, well, it's a whole bit of ruins that need fixing up, and I can put more Pokemon over there. That really is kind of how exploration works. You'll find notes. Sometimes you'll find entire cave systems and stuff that are just like, how did they hide this under plain sight? And then they give you shortcuts to get back to your main area after you find them. So like sometimes you're going through a cave, you find this whole hidden town, and then you see some areas that are like, oh, I should just rock smash over here. And then it pops out right in your main area. It's a lot of fun. And it is really cool. And by the time you're in the late game like I am, you're already thinking about what can I put here, what buildings and what habitats can I make for other Pokemon so that I can better utilize the space. And there really is an art to managing each individual Pokemon and their specific needs. At first, you will create a habitat for them, like say a planter with a bunch of flowers, and they'll be attracted to that. And then you can move them into a house. And when you move them into a house, then they are no longer in that planter, and then another Pokemon can move in. And it also raises their happiness to be inside of their own home. There's a lot of factors at play about micromanaging the various little things that each individual Mon wants. But the cool thing is you can build all of this naturally into your own gameplay loop. And so you're never really feeling like I'm obligated to build this hut for Charmander, even though he asked for it, because, well, it's showing you how to build the hut for Charmander, and then you could use that to build more huts for more Pokemon to live in. Like I have Hitmonlee and Hitmonchan living in the same house together, and it's just natural. I'm always thinking about how am I going to make a habitat for this Pokemon and how am I going to house them later. And that's more of a late game thing, but as you allocate your resources, it becomes something like, oh, I'm going to build this difficult to build thing. Then I'm going to move that Pokemon out, and then new Pokemon's going to hopefully move in at some point. And you can't repeat them. It's not like you're going to attract a Rattata, who's then going to attract a Rattata, who's then going to attract a Rattata. I don't think I have a Rattata. I don't even know if Rattata's in this game. You have a Pidgey. So Pidgey, Pidgeotto, and Pidgeot all do spawn out of the same area. But if I move my Pidgey into a house, then that Pidgeotto can spawn where the Pidgey spawn. And this is just, it's so weird because like I'm trying to keep it surface level, but this is how deep the game gets to a lot of degrees. Like your Pokemon will instantly become happier. It will raise the happiness level, give you more blocks to build with. And then there's also this whole mechanic that if you're building a house, as long as it's encircled in blocks all around, including a door, then a Pokemon can live there. And as long as you put 3 items in it, the Pokemon will be happy with it. And then you can change the items that are in there to fit the Pokemon. So for example, Onyx likes dry places, and you could put a drying stone inside of his dry little leaf hut, and he'll be happy with it more so than if you just put him in a cave, which is part of his quest. So like, it's an early example, but it's just, I could gush about this game so much on how little tiny interactions like this can really just, they sell the illusion that you're in a large world with Pokemon who are lost and you are the closest thing to a human that they have to experience. So then when it comes down to it, I love Pokopia. It is one of the best games I've played in a very long time. It hits that cozy gaming. It hits that creative gaming. And I mean, there's literally like no danger. So it's very, very relaxing to play. I honestly, if I weren't recording this, would be playing Pokopia right now. And I'm probably going to play it after I finish this video. So it's like, I love this. It's one of the first games for the Switch 2 that I go, this is a system solid. Now, does it need to be a Switch 2 game? Yes. I'm just gonna say it flat out, yes. There are some people who are like, oh, it could maybe work on the Switch. I'm like, no. I like the performance. I like the look of it. I like the graphics. And I like how detailed it is. I think if this were a Switch 1 game, all of those worlds would be so much smaller. But as a Switch 2 game, we have an expansive world. We have lots to build with. We have so many different ideas and concepts that are just coming together to make an awesome game. And I love it. As a Switch 2 game, this game looks great. The art style does carry it a lot, and the Ditto is adorable, albeit a little bit creepy. I will admit, Ditto does have a couple of animations that even make me go, a little bit weird, aren't you? But overall, the game is really, really fun and is something that I have enjoyed quite a bit. Art style wise, it's nice. It's Minecraft plus Pokemon plus Animal Crossing plus Dragon Quest. It's just good. It's a good game. And it looks nice and it runs great. It runs at 60 FPS. It runs at 4K. it just works, which is more than I can say about Fallout 4. That's where I'm going to end this video. I recommend it. I love it. And I'm going to continue playing it. So I'll see you next time. Wolfy,